make it visually engaging, this already inaccessible amount of data. But it actually, in the process of creating this, it turned into something that suggested something maybe more than the geospatial positioning of just the golf courses. They started to look like infestations, or like these cancers, or like these sores on like the tissue that sort of suggests the state of California, but it's not completely explicit. Because I decided to blur the projector, it highlighted the vials, but it also sort of suggested something more than just a moquette. Some detail shot. The vials were originally filled with tonic water because tonic water glows in a chemical reaction to blacklight. But unfortunately, I ran out of money because the 2 blacklights that I bought were nowhere near strong enough to do ultimately what I wanted to do. But I'm really excited about how it turned out. So with my sort of golf course investigations through like a data archive and then this sculptural piece, I also have been really interested in remixes lately. And so I made a water remix, and it's led to a lot of problems basically, because I guess regardless of fair use claims, UCSB doesn't understand that I was using the material in an artistic way, and so yeah, I got a DMCA violation and the internet banned for 30 days and a slap on the wrist. And so, out of that horrible experience, I was kind of like, well, let's try to be productive. I made a reaction remix that utilized footage from Step Brothers, and then screen captions from when I tried to access the internet, and the big ban page would show up as my homepage, and it wouldn't let me access the internet any farther.
What?! This house is a fucking prison!
I guess I wanted to just make more remixes in the face of these charges, just to let it be known that I don't intend to slow down. This paper that surrounds the video sort of is a web correspondence archive that I try to categorize and sort of articulate and make sense of everything that, in terms of knowledge, came out of it. So I have all the emails from faculty who supported me, chats, Facebook things. I got a little bit of web presence, news articles from other students that got published in the Daily Nexus, organizations, everything that I just wanted to share the most productive parts of this horrible experience with the viewer and sort of provoke discourse on our rights in the face of fair use, copyright infringement, and DMCA charges. So I've talked about basically everything that I've done. These are some of the people that influenced me, philosophers and artists. I don't know if I have time to articulate why exactly, but I just wanted to say that since I've been here, I understand that it's a short 2-year program. I'm trying to be as productive as I can because time is limited. I'm trying to learn as much as I can. I'm really interested in philosophy. I'm really interested in art that sort of tries to categorize things, map things, make sense of topical, political, ecological, sustainable, all kinds of these subjects that sort of inspire me because all of my work is concept-based, and then the practice sort of flows out of that concept. So I don't really box myself in as a painter or a sculptor per se. It's really whatever sort of helps drive the point home that I'm trying to articulate. On campus, I've done a lot of shows. I have a lot of things going on with organizations, writing a lot of grants. I've been active outside of campus. I've got a show in Fresno, one pending in Greece and LA. I'm just trying to be as active as I can. I've got Dear One Lions, who's a UCSB alumni, actually being invited back because we're going to give a lecture at the Oil Water Conference. And you know, I sort of made a promise to myself to be as productive as I can and to make the best of my time here. And so I'll end with 4 lines from a poem by Robert Frost. The woods are lovely, dark and deep, but I have promises to keep and miles to go before I sleep. And miles to go before I sleep. Thank you.
Sure. Can we talk a little bit about these works today and what sort of thoughts you had about the way that you want to display information and all the systems, and how it relates to high conceptualism and what you want to do in terms of just its visuals?
Well, visual display is always something that takes time for me to really decide how to do it, because I know my aesthetics are drawn to just information, and sometimes that, when it's presented in text mode, it's not always intriguing to viewers, and it's not always accessible, and I'm trying to marry this aesthetic approach and this conceptual approach in ways that sort of satisfies, me, because it's still on the content and on the topic at hand, but it's also accessible by people who maybe don't want to just walk on by. I'm thinking, in video remix, to me, that form of taking popular culture and remixing it and the aims to sort of be humorous but still critical simultaneously, and then, hoping to make the work viral on the web is a completely different approach. I feel like it's a separate mode of thinking for me, because I'm not sure how to translate that into a gallery setting, but I'm hoping the works were accessible.
You mentioned that part of your approach is making sense of things around you, although you didn't say it exactly like that. So I was wondering what happens when things don't make sense?
There's a lot of things that still don't make sense. I keep trying, I keep thinking about it, and there's a lot of things that are on the back burner right now that I don't understand. But I wait for something inside me to sort of push me forward and make it happen, to make those decisions when I feel like I can fully articulate something, even though, like in the instance of the DMCA work, it's never completely finished anyway. But at the stage of where I was willing to share it with the public, I felt like that information was enough to start.
So you want to make sure that what you're presenting makes sense?
Yeah. I mean, I think the golf course data list, while the font size is 7, I think it's still accessible, but there's a little bit of a strain involved. And like not only in visually, but like in just processing how many exactly there are. Yes?
I was wondering if you thought of maybe translating the texts into visual images the way someone like Trevor Paglin does in his installations, where he maps covert military sites.
Yeah.
And covers walls with little silhouettes of jet fighters, for example, so they look like a swarm of gnats, and as you walk in, you're not reading text, but you get this overwhelming sense of sheer numbers.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if maybe you thought of using that kind of tactic. Say, instead of having lists of golf course names, you have a symbol of a green with a flag sticking up. Cover a wall with them.
Yeah, I like that. I definitely should have thought about that.
Because it's more visceral that way.
Yes.
Or Lisa's digital map of the internet.
Yeah.
I would say, though, we talked a little bit before about this, that there's other ways of cutting through the data, like cutting a piece of wood straight through. You see the rings, so
Right.
like, versus cutting the other end, you see something different. I don't know what, but
Right.
so there's like, rather than just displaying the same data in a different way, imagine a way of cutting, slicing it on an angle, and visualizing data or a lot of information that both shows the sublimity of the amount of it, but
Yeah.
also might reveal something that is hidden to us.
I think you're absolutely
And
right.
then maybe if you cut it on the angle, you get some of it.
Absolutely.
I don't know,
Yeah.
Or cut it like this, you get something.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I just was wondering, your sort of faith in the exhibition space as being a real staging for this kind of work, and yet you were immersed in the desert in this terrain, and I'm just wondering your spatial relationships with these really very geospatially tied, like golf courses and the desert,
Yeah.
and then they're kind of distilled into this cult of exhibition, and I just wondered, you seem to have a great regard for that space, and I just wondered your comments on that.
I'm conflicted in terms of where I think my work is best presented. Maybe the web and the public accessibility of the way larger scope that the work can reach versus the desert scraps were found in the desert, and so maybe that's a richer terrain to sort of investigate further versus, oh, we have a first year review show in Santa Barbara. I have to sort of configure in my mind and translate these things the best that I can given the situation. But I really feel like my personal home and the works that, the aspects of them that I really appreciate are in the digital medium.